Congratulations on participating in ICF's International Coaching Week. My name is Priya, and I'm here on behalf of International Coaching Education. And this year we have a series of 4 events designed for those who are considering becoming a coach and earning an income from this profession. Starting ICW 2026 with today's event, we aim to answer the question, what is coaching actually like? This is done through a live group coaching demo and an opportunity to hear about strength coaching methodology and some Q&A, including hearing from Taymour's specific journey. In Wednesday's event, we aim to answer the question, can I see myself as a coach? This is a roundtable discussion with some coaches outlining how professionals can transition into coaching. In Saturday's event, we aim to answer the question, how is coaching used professionally? This is also a roundtable discussion and with some HR professionals outlining how coaching is used and valued in organizations. And finally, in Sunday's event, we aim to answer the question, can I build something sustainable? This is a webinar focused on being a solopreneur, running your own coaching business, and the journey to creating a sustainable coaching practice. I'm going to put a link in the chat to these events, these upcoming events, right now. So you can register for those if you haven't already done so. I'm going to put that now. There you go. So in a few minutes, I'm going to hand you over to Taymour Miri, who's the lead on today's event. But before I do, I'd love to make sure that you have your name is correctly displayed on Zoom so that we all know how to address you correctly. You can do that by going into participants, then clicking your name or select more and then rename. Also, if you could please make sure your mic is muted to prevent background noise. And finally, there's going to be a Q&A section 2/3 of the way through this event. So please jot down your questions in the chat and we will endeavor to answer them all when we get to the Q&A section. That's it, and I'll hand you over to Taymour. Taymour, take it away.
All right. Welcome. Welcome to International Coaching Week 2026. We always put a series of events during this week, and I don't know whether all of you know why International Coaching Week has been formed, but there's an interesting story behind this, that one of the coaches back probably about 15, 20 years ago now, asked the question to ICF, why don't we have a celebration during 1 week of the year where anybody that's interested in coaching can come and link in with those who coach and understand what coaching is about and experience it and develop themselves at the same time. So really, this week is a celebration, and we are putting these series of events to celebrate the whole concept and the profession of coaching. Today, I'd like to add 2 elements to this celebration, and that is the words empowerment and the words inspiration. So I'd like, through our session or demo, to think about as a coach, when we're coaching others, how can we empower our clients and how can we inspire them to move powerfully towards whatever it is that they want to achieve in their lives? And that, I think, is a huge gift from us coaches towards our clients, and it's a journey which, again, we are given the gift to be by their side, partnering with them so that they move towards that outcome, and we can see and celebrate that with them as they are moving towards it and go beyond that particular goal to hopefully achieve a lot more. So this is really about being in service to our clients. And that requires a specific mindset. And that is one of the biggest things that happens when we're educated to become a coach. It's shifting our mindset from whatever it is that we're good at doing, whether it's consulting or training or um, mentoring, to specifically sit in the coaching mindset and to be of service using those competencies. So today is going to be a demo. I'm going to add elements of strength methodology to it, and I'll be speaking about that a little bit later. I noticed that there's a number of people I recognize their names and the videos are on, and I can see some of the familiar faces and someone new. And one of the things I'd love to start with is about me through registering and hopefully reading what you're showing up for. I'd like to get to know a little bit about you. So we have an understanding of like who are you from a perspective of showing up today, and that will give me some context about where you're on your journey. So I'm going to launch a poll, and it really is only two questions, and uh, it would be extremely valuable for me to get a view, and I will share the results so we know kind of roughly what kind of individual background is attending today. So Puya, I think we had about 30 odd people. I don't know how many people have come. So roughly how many of us are there right now?
84 at the moment,
34. Okay.
well, including yourself and I.
Okay. So
It's a
the
full
first
32.
question I'm focusing on where you are currently. So I know some of you have joined the accreditation program with International Coaching Federation. I know some of you are registered. So you would have answered in the third question, I have had or in the process of having ICF accredited coaching education. Some of you I know that are already coaches and have probably got an ACC or more as a credential. You're here to experience a demo. So that would be the last question. I have a coaching credential. The first one is where you are considering to become a coach and you haven't had any experience in the training. And then the second question is you have had some experience working with a qualified coach. So if you've had experience with a qualified coach, you will know what it feels like working with a coach. If you said you haven't had experience with a coach and you haven't, you're ground zero, then today's demo intentionally is for you to get a feel for what coaching is like. So I would really appreciate you participating fully if you've never had any coach training or haven't worked with a coach. And I can see about 20% of you have said that that's where you're at. For those of you who have had coach training or indeed have a credential, I'd like you to consider today's demo as an opportunity to learn a technique that you can apply when you go and meet your clients for the very first time. Call it the pilot session or the first session of introduction. And maybe you can use this technique and the number of questions I am going to apply to it in that session so that your clients, when they're getting a feel for who you are and do they want to work with you and vice versa, they also experience what coaching is like in that very first introduction session. Now that the intention is not necessarily for them to have a full-blown coaching session, because I don't think you'll have the time for that introduction session. But by having a coaching conversation with them, if they get to feel what it's like working with you and the type of questions you're asking and what environment you're creating with them, you are starting to create trust and they are getting a feel for what to expect working with you. So whichever category you are that you've said you're coming into this session today, I trust that you will take something of value out of it through either or of those two possibilities I've just outlined. In the second part, I've asked, are you thinking of transitioning from your current career to becoming a coach? And in this case, some of you are, again, thinking through this possibility. Some of you are already in it. Some of you may think about this in the future, but you're not looking at this seriously right now. Again, this is an important question to answer because between these three options, I'm hoping that what will come out is that if you are thinking of becoming a coach, or you're in that process, we can have a section of today, perhaps around the Q&A, three-quarters of the way, where I can share some of my experiences of what I have gone through in order to build a sustainable coaching business. And perhaps some of the questions you may have around that whole topic that may have been either holding you back, or it's a question that you need to get clarity on before you move forward. So these are the reasons why I've asked this, and I can see that the audience we have today, roughly about 70% are already on that path. So perhaps that conversation will help you to ask some questions around that. About 20% are thinking of becoming a coach. So that kind of gives us a feel for where we're at today. So let's go to thinking about the demo and how we're going to set this up. So this is going to be a group coaching session. So that means that I'd like all of you to participate. In order for you to get a feel for what coaching could be like, I'd like you to take whatever you're hearing from me, even if I'm not working with you directly, and consider your goal and move forward with me, even if I am working directly with someone else. And what I will do is I'll ask you to participate via chat or open up your line, and we can have a conversation as we're going along, for those of you who want to do that. Okay, so that's the structure that we're going to set up. And before we start, I'm going to ask you to put in the chat if you were meeting someone that was a potential client, or indeed you're thinking of becoming a coach and you're thinking through this whole coaching profession. If you had to answer the question in a simple sentence, what is coaching? What would you say? So if you had to respond to that question, what is coaching? So this is coming from your perspective, right? Whatever experience you've had with it to date. What would you say in response? I'm going to open up the chat and have a quick read through what you're saying. And we'll see how much of that you're going to experience through this coaching conversation that we're going to have today. Okay. So Puya, you may want to keep a record of some of the questions that are being asked that we would want to respond to later on, so we don't lose it. I can see there's a couple of questions already that we need to kind of get back and let people know. So guiding someone along in their journey of guiding along someone in their journey, and I'm kind of struggling to open up the full. Let me see if I can. Is it just me, or is everybody else seeing only part of the writing? For some reason, I can't open up the full. Ah, here we go. Here we go. It's all opened up now. Okay. Help the client to achieve their goal on a way that is consistent with their value, and at the same time, they try new ways of achieving them. Thanks, Sarah. So, um, so just remember what we're hearing in terms of what coaching means to some of you, and see what part of that shows up in our conversations today. So, achieving goals, the word consistency, values, and also their own way of achieving them. So try new ways of achieving them. Coaching is empowering an individual to reach their potential. So the word potential, what that means, so Debbie's written this. So potential may mean different things to different people. From a coaching competency, from ICF perspective, potential is what each of us have available to ourselves. So the combination of our talents, our unique talents, by the way, our unique talents, our knowledge, our skills, experiences, and the capacity to learn and apply what we're learning. So if you think about what potential is, and we all have potential in our unique way, if you just go through some of the words I just used, we all have different knowledge, experiences, skill sets. We have different unique combination of talents. And we have a unique capacity to learn and apply that. So in order to tap into that, one of the coach's role is to understand the client from where they are and support them, partner with them to move through where they are to that higher standard, closer to their potential. So if you can just visualize that journey, we're here to work with our clients through a period of time where they get to see more of what their potential is and decide to move towards that. First, they have to see it, and then they have to decide to move towards it. If any of those two don't happen, the client will not get to that potential. It's not just seeing it. They have to decide and take action towards that in order to materialize it. And that's why a coaching program with our clients is never one session. It's a series of sessions over a period of time where we are supporting and partnering with clients to get there. So for the client, having a thought partner to lead them to achieve their goals and dreams. Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Guiding someone along in their journey. So think about that from a perspective of having the coaching mindset that the client knows best what it is that works for them in their life. So when we use the word guiding them, it's guiding them to see what they have, as opposed to me guiding them from my perspective of what I think they have. So it's me being curious and exploring with them so that they discover more about themselves and then decide to capitalize on that capacity to move towards what it is they want to move towards. Coaching is a methodology that helps to meet your true self and unleash your resources. We just talked about that, absolutely. Coaching focuses on helping the individual discover their own solutions. We just talked about that. It's about unlocking the person's potential and helping them move from where they are now to where they want to be. So that just captures some of the things we just talked about beautifully. Thanks, Bern. Helping the client to become a better version of themselves. So this is in perspective of the client seeing the capacity, their true talents, and the potential to do what they're capable of doing. You see, and then you decide to move. And this is the part we coaches play a big role on, and we'll be talking about that in a second as we go forward. Thank you for sharing your thoughts around what coaching is from your perspective. We'll touch on that from ICF's perspective after this demo. And also I will add the strength methodology perspective on top of what ICF has put down as competencies, so we can see how both these methodologies can combine together to add more value to our clients. And by adding more value to our clients, it means our clients move towards where they want to move towards more powerfully and hopefully faster than they would have. And by doing that, they want to work with you more, they want to refer you to others, and they're willing to pay you more because you're adding more value. And that's the link between the coaching profession, you learning the competencies, and the business side of coaching, where you're hoping to increase your revenue doing what you love in terms of serving others to succeed. So to do this demo, with the time we've got, I've split this demo into 5 questions. And the reason why I've done this in a group coaching session, if you can design for a group that has a common theme, a series of questions that you can then get them to think about. And through talking to some individuals, you can get others to become more empowered and insightful in terms of what they want to achieve. And at the end, get some actions. You've done your coaching session. So that's what I'm attempted to do with you today. Okay, so help me do this group session so that you walk away with some actions for you personally. So as we go through these questions, I'm going to open up some science and some ways of thinking that goes behind that question. So as I'm opening up, hopefully you will start thinking about what that means for you, and that might bring some insights, and we can have a conversation and then go to the next one and so forth. And after the 5th question, we will wrap up, see your takeaways, and then we'll move into the Q&A and the things I just referred to about the methodologies. So that's our setup for today. So I'd like some volunteers, because as I'm going through this, I'd like to come back to 1, 2, or 3 of you where you are prepared to have a conversation with me, so that others can see some of the conversation between a coach and a potential client, so that you can get a feel for what's actually going on through a coaching session. So I promise you that I'm not going to ask you anything that's, you don't have to answer anything that's private that you don't want to. It's more about you moving through the thinking cycle as we're going through these questions. So I'd like 1 to 3 volunteers. If you can just either raise your hand or in the chat say you're ready to volunteer, that would be perfect. And Puya, if you're getting some signals that I'm not seeing, please help me kind of so I can see Bern. Thank you, Bern. Sarah, thank you, Sarah. Anyone else interested in going through some of the things that's on your head about something that you want to grow into? Telma, great. Okay, so that's good. Now, for the rest of you, I am going to ask you to participate in the chat as we go along, or if I open up an opportunity you want to share or ask a question, just open up and ask your questions. Okay, so that's kind of keep that fluid. So just to get a feel for this, um, what I'd like everybody to do is to start with this one question. What is your goal that you want to achieve in, let's say, 15, 20 minutes that we're going to be coaching? So if this was a coaching session and you had a goal that you wanted to achieve, what would that goal be? So what is your goal? Now, I'd like to encourage you to write your goal if you can, if it's possible, in the chat, so that I can give some feedback around how that goal can be converted to more clarity for you. So what can I spot in what it is you've written that as a coach, I can come back and ask you so that you can get more clarity around the goal that you have. So I'm going to start with Bern. Bern, if you had to, um, if this was a coaching session and we were just starting together, and you wanted to say in one sentence, what is it that you would like to achieve by the end of the session? What would you say? Hi, by the way.
Hi, can
Hey,
you hear me okay?
I can perfectly well.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So the first thing that comes to mind is I'm a little bit of backstory. I'm 2 years into coaching,
Mhm.
and I have just created what I'm excited for in the group coaching space, which is a
Mhm.
free online space for people to come in and for us to just start sharing and sort of create more visibility around my coaching, and a step in a way that like feels good for me. So it's not a big launch. It's just I've created a space and I have some topics and we'll discuss things and then we'll have a gathering once a month. Great. Feels really good. It's not salesy. It feels like me. But I'm at this point where I want to share it with more people and I want it to grow. But I'm torn between this feeling inside about, how does it make money and how is it going to grow and how is it going to create an income, and taking steps in that direction in the marketing side versus just letting it grow organically in a way that feels good, slowly, intentionally, without that pressure to, it's got to make money and it's got to grow and I've got to get more clients. And so I'm at this stage where I want to make some decisions about where it's going to go. And so there's this internal pull of growth and marketing and money. And then there's like this other side that is, no, just slowly do what you said you were going to do. Put some prompts in there, have your gathering, and just, you know, lay back and be intentional, but from a good place, not a forced urgency place. So in all honesty, that's the first thing that came up. That's what I'm sort of struggling with right now.
Okay. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Bern. So, Bern, if you wanted to um, summarize that into um, a question you wanted answered by the end of this session, what would that be?
Hmm. Ooh, that's tricky. Okay, so the question would be, do I take a slow approach that feels really good, that might not attract a bunch of people at first? Or do I take an approach that does lead to, financial gain, more clients, and, get going faster? I think that's the best I got. Yeah.
Okay, it's a great start. So, so it's kind of an either or. At the end of the session, I want to get to a decision of this or the other.
Yeah, or at least a little bit more awareness around it. Maybe I don't need the question answered completely, but a little bit more awareness around the direction I should start aiming for.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I'm going to park that for a second. So, as everybody else is listening to Bern, what we're talking about is the central question. What is your goal for this session? So, for those of you who want to become a coach, this is the very first element of a coaching session. So, every coaching session must have an outcome. And we must focus as a coach on that outcome throughout the session unless the client wants to change that. It's competency number 3 out of 8 that ICF has put in there. So in terms of what we're doing and where it all fits in with coaching, so this is kind of giving you context as we're going along. And as you were listening to Bern, I asked Bern a follow-up question. And the follow-up question was a question that I framed so that Bern can become more clear about the outcome she wants from the session. So one of the things I'd like to put here as far as the learning is concerned from a coaching session, the coaching session becomes more powerful as our clients become more clear. Right? It's that word. So clear about what they want and what they don't want. Clear about what it looks like when they get it. Clear about why they want that. So it's clarity, right? The more clarity that the client starts to bring up, the more power the client has to make that decision we talked about, moving towards the outcome. So remember, we talked about self-awareness, so become aware of your capacity, and then make a decision to act towards that goal that you want. So with Bern, we are getting towards that clarity. We're still, you can see that there is still more work that can be done where Bern becomes extremely more clear around what she wants out of this session. But she's in a pretty good place right now because she's now got at least one question she wants answered by the end of the session. And we will know whether she's answered it, right? It's relatively clear, right? So it gives us direction in terms of what I'm listening for and what I'm asking as a result and what I'm observing, and for her to move throughout the session towards insights about herself and about her circumstance and about her goal, so that she can then make the appropriate decision going out of this session to get into action. Right? So for those of you who are coaches or in the programs, you know that process, right? That's the competency framework. So this is in action as we're going through. And I've framed it in these 5 questions deliberately because I believe if we work really well on competency 3 and we become masterful as coaches on competency 3, we will help our coaching session with our clients to move faster and more effectively towards the outcome they want. Right? So these 5 questions are framed are primarily sitting at competency 3. I'll just kind of put it out there so that you know where we're heading. So thanks, Bern. I'm going to come back to you. So Sarah, what would you frame as your goal if we had a similar time frame?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello to all of you. And my background is different. I work in human resources, and I'm part of the internal coaches pool in my company, in the company I work for. So what I would like to take out of this session is to understand, because I'm curious, how could I apply the strengths methodology in one of my coaching sessions?
Great. So it's around how can you apply the strength methodology in one of your coaching sessions, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, so that's
In
pretty
one
specific.
or maybe in several, I don't know, but to start with one.
Okay,
Mm.
so in a way, you want to introduce the strength
Mm.
methodology into your coaching conversations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, great. All right, so who do we have? We have one other candidate, Telma. Hi. What would you frame as your goal?
So, hello,
Hi.
I'm a career coach. And so, similarly to Bern, I've been thinking and considering offering small group coaching. And so, initially, my question was would offering small career coaching groups of no more than 5 be valuable and feasible? But now I'm leaning more into what would be the format. So, how many sessions, and the structure of the coaching session.
Okay. So you're coming in to this session with wanting to know how best to structure your group coaching business, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. So let's just summarize here around question number one, which is what is your goal? So I'd like you to walk away, if with nothing today, with with this equation that clarity equals power. It is often that our clients come to us where there are clouds surrounding their mind around what it is really that they want. And they have some ideas, and you listen to the words, and you can see there are plenty of clouds there. And the idea is that we have a conversation where they start to remove the cloud and really see the road ahead. And once they see that, most often the client has everything they really want to then do the next thing, because they can see. So clarity equals power. And the other thing I want you to walk away with is that you cannot hit a target you cannot see. Same concept, but I wanted to just give those two versions. For some of you, the second one will stay with you longer, and it'll have the impact longer, right? So whether we're talking about ourselves or we're working as coaches with clients, our initial job and throughout the session is to watch out for, is there enough clarity? And how can we create that clarity? What is it that they really want? And then one of the questions that will come up, and if I was coaching Telma and Telma came into our first session with what she described as what she wanted to achieve, what I'm hearing is Telma is looking for a mentor, someone who has done group coaching, that can teach her, that can give her some tools, that give her some rules, give her some benchmarks. Now, if as a coach, I'm hearing that the client actually wants something else rather than coaching, one of the first things I want to do is address that. I want to bring it up and be curious about that. Not assume that that's definitely the case, But if I'm hearing it and there's a possibility that it's not coaching they want, then I want to be making sure that the client has the chance to open up and make it clear to me what it is that they believe is about coaching in what they're asking for. Okay, so I'm going to do that conversation with Taymour right now. So Taymour, so I'm not going to repeat this. You heard what I said, but this is what I'm hearing is what I think you're saying you want. What do you, how can you kind of make that more clearer for me?
Yeah, I think that you are totally right. I mean, having a mentor would probably provide like a quicker allow me to move forward into making that decision. Perhaps behind it, it's also like hesitation because I'm so used to one-on-one coaching that now going into the group, and that's probably where I need more the coaching. So it will be both mentoring and coaching.
Excellent. So for today, um, for a coaching conversation, what you're saying is you're open to talk about what's behind the hesitation and how you can powerfully go past that and get into action.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So that's absolutely coaching, right? And that makes sense. So now we have clarified the goal that is in line with what I'm here to do. So it's really important to address that when you hear that in a coaching conversation up front, to be absolutely sure that we're talking about coaching. So I'm going to put a bonus kind of insight or a view or experience here at this stage. From my experience, unless I hear from my clients that there is something that they are looking to move towards, that it's something to do with a change that they want to create. And it's a change they want to create for themselves. Both of these are really important. Because sometimes clients come in and say, look, I'd like you to change my husband, or I'd like to change my boss. Right? That's not going to happen. That's not going to coaching session. But if a client comes in and says, look, I want to change in the way I am thinking, or I want to go from this to that, I know I'm sitting in a coaching session and I can serve here. Okay, so let's move to the second part. The second question I have for you. So the first question was, what is your goal? The second question is, how long have you had this goal? How long have you been sitting with this goal? And it may be showing up in different ways. It may not be the same sentence that you're saying today, but it may be something that has the elements that's been with you. So for Taymour, it may be that she has had experiences in the past where she has wanted to move towards a particular new environment or circumstance, and it has been difficult, and she has found it really difficult to move forward with it because of how she feels and what she's thinking about it. And today's example is around group coaching, but that may have been raising its head in other things. So for me, for example, I knew very early on in my professional career that I wanted to create my own business. So that was the overarching or the umbrella out there, right? How am I going to start my own business? What is my business going to be in? At that time, I had no idea what coaching was. I'd never heard the name. So today, my goal may have been, how do I start my coaching business? But I know that there's a history in my thinking that I want to create my own business. Today, I've decided I want to name it as my coaching business. So when you're thinking about this, when you're thinking about your goal, think of it from a perspective of when was the first seed that was sown in your head around that goal? So I'm gonna ask for some feedback, right? So how many of you have had the goal you've said, let's say within the last 12 months? So you've had this goal within the last 12 months. So this goal just popped up, and you've decided what that is, and it was in the last 12 months that you decided this is your goal, this is what you want to go after. How many of you would say your goal was created in the last 12 months? So if you can put in the chat or raise your hand, whichever means is easier for you, we'll get a feel for like how many out of the 30 odd people here are in that time frame. I'm going to give a little bit of time as we're going through this, by the way. So the reason I'm waiting is to see in the chat where how many of you are actually in that time frame. So so far we've got 5. Still 5. So Tamsin is saying it's over a year as a context. So we'll come back to Tamsin. So still 5. So that's a fairly kind of low percentage, right? 5 out of 30 people. So it's about 15%, something like that, right? So let me ask you this. How many of you have had this goal between 1 and 2 years? How many of you have had it over between 1 and 2 years? Some of you have started to say it's much longer, so we'll get more specific as we're going along. Not many of you between 1 to 2 years. What about in the last 5 years? How many of you have had your goal for the last 5 years? So I can see there's a few of you, 3 to 5 years. Started over 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah, Gemma's saying, yeah, time's in probably 5 years. Farida is saying most of her life. Three to 5 years. Okay, so there seems to be a number of you, like probably 20, 30% of you in that category. How many of you has it been between 5 and 10 years? Has anybody had this goal that you've defined between 5 and 10 years? Yeah, there's Ina saying about 7 years. Has anybody had it over 10 years? Has anybody had this goal over 10 years? Now, I know one of you said probably all your life because you just didn't know it was coaching, right? Why is this important? If you're coaching someone, why is it important to ask this question? How long have you had this goal? So if you think about how our desires work. So the longer you want something and you don't do something about it, the more important, and perhaps there are more deeper reasons that are causing this goal not to have been materialized yet? Now, this is not for certain, but it starts to give some relation. So you may ask, if your client is coming in and you're starting off this engagement with them, how long have you had this vision or goal? If they say all my life, like, this is pretty damn important for that person. If they say, it's in the past year, I've just got to this goal, it doesn't mean it's not important, but there's a context that gives you have a context about how long they've been sitting with something that they have desired. And they'll have some history and some things they can share about that, which will be relevant to their current reality, to the way they're thinking, feeling. Maybe it's their belief system, maybe it's their perception, maybe it's their perspective. Any one of those, as it opens up, these are coaching tools that you can use in order to move the client more powerfully forward towards where they want to go. So that's the context around the element of time in relation to the goal. So the third question I have for you is, what is the one biggest obstacle you can name that's getting in the way? What is the one biggest obstacle you can name that's getting in the way, or you think it's getting in the way? So Bern, going back to you, just that whole kind of the clarity around the goal you just set out. So when you think about that goal, what would you say the one biggest obstacle would be for you?
Yeah, thank you for asking me to clarify further, because I've been having some insight listening to you speak to the whole group, and I'm now getting much more clear just by listening to what's really behind my original question. And for me, what it comes down to is, I have a gathering coming up in 2 weeks, and I only have 15 people in the space since I started inviting people a little under 3 weeks ago. So what's really happening, and I wrote this question down, is how can I stay connected to the purpose of my group and be present no matter who shows up, instead of using a low attendance as my proof of worth, credibility, and legitimacy. That's what's really happening right now. I'm worried about showing up, not knowing who's going to show up, and feeling like I'm less legitimate, like my credibility is low, and maybe others will think that as well. So that's the question that I'm sitting with. That's the question.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being so honest about what's going on for you right now. I'm going to come back to you, Bern. I think that's just such a powerful insight you've just got going through that. I'm going to come back to you. Sarah,
Thank you.
what would you say? Thank you. What would you say, Sarah? What's the biggest obstacle?
Well, because I want to know how to to apply this strength methodology, maybe it's a time frame obstacle, because I thought this session was gonna last till 7 p.m. our time. My time is 5 minutes to, so I think I will not have time enough to stay with you and learn how to apply the strengths. But I will look at the recording.
Yeah, definitely, the recording will be available. So Sarah, what I'm gathering is that you came onto this session to learn how you can apply strength coaching immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was you taking action to learn something.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Awesome. So again, just to be clear about what a coaching session is. A coaching session is where we're listening for what the client needs to change in order to get to where they want. Now, Sarah was already in action. Her mindset was, I'm coming here to learn something and then going to apply it. So that is not a coaching session.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I read it was a demo, and that's why I thought it was like a kind of training. But thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for attending, Sarah. So
Yeah.
let's go to Thelma. Thelma, what is your one biggest obstacle?
I think it's related what Byrne had mentioned about credibility, about offering something that has no value or not enough structure, so that people walk away saying, "Oh, this was great. I can move forward."
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. So by the way, Puyo, I was wondering if before Sarah leaves, you can just share with her um, the um, the resources we have around the articles around strengths, and perhaps she can go and get some tools before the recording to help her go forward.
Yes, of course.
Thanks.
I'm going to put the link to not just the other sessions that are upcoming, but the homepage of our site and also the articles, basically like a blog section called Coaching Articles, where you find hundreds or many coaching related articles. I'll put that in the chat right now.
Thanks. So Sarah, if you're still there, go to resources, have a look at the strengths articles. There are some methodologies there, and there's a strength model there that you can go and apply. And hopefully that'll kick you kind of straight into action and get some results. Okay, so going back to this question, what is the biggest obstacle? So the relationship between where the client is at in their thinking and getting to the capacity that they have, and then the action they need to take. So the biggest thing around this question is to listen for where the client is identifying themselves getting in the way. This is the biggest part where coaching can be of a service, is where we are observing as coaches through what we've learned to listen for where the client is saying that they are the ones that are getting in their way. Now, that could be through their thinking, it could be through their doubts, it could be through their fears, it could be through their perspective, it could be through their belief system, it could be through their cultural setting. So just think about that. If you're hearing that, where the client's way of thinking is actually getting in their way to get to their outcome, that's where we observe and let them know that through non-judgmental, like a mirror, observing, putting it in front of them for them to be able to see it. And if they see it, they have access to that capacity. Where they see they're getting in their own way, they then have a decision to make. Do I get out of my own way? And if it's yes, then it's how do I get out of my way? And that's what we're going to be talking about through the coaching session. So Bern, just Lily's saying, can you give an example? So let's look at the examples through Bern and Thelma. So they both just identified that it is the thinking that they have had, some of the thinking, that has disempowered them, that has made them feel doubt. That's all it was. It's not the truth. It's just a way of thinking. Now, if Bern very, very clearly identified that I saw it. I saw that that's what I was focusing on. What if this happened? And what does that mean to me? That's the conversation she was having with herself. Now, because she brought that up, she now can hear herself getting in her own way, because that's just the conversation. It is not the truth. And once she recognizes that's just a conversation, then it's about managing her thoughts. It's about focusing on what would empower her versus what disempowers her. And that's where we're at in terms of helping the client through that conversation so that she can focus on that. Same with Thelma, right? Same thought. It's what you're hearing that is potentially disempowering the client, and it's getting in their way. 80% of the coaching I come up with that in my clients is where they're getting in their way through their thinking. Now, that could be through their belief system, perspective, all that stuff that we just talked about. So moving to the...
Sorry, I don't know
Lily.
the time-wise. Can I ask that question?
Lily, can I ask you to park so that we can get through the 5 questions and then we'll come back to you?
Sure.
Yeah. So to get in the flow, the last but one question is, what is the action you have taken in the last 24 hours towards the goal you set? So you may come into the session as, what have you done? What have you done recently towards what it is you want to do?
¿Ella es la gerente general de todo?
No, ella es, pues es como la...
I'm going to ask Puya if you could put, thank you. If you could put them on mute, that great. So, so one of the most powerful things that defines coaching versus other services is coaching occurs because there is an action at the end of the session. So client has action to walk out and experience. So when they come into the session, what action they have done is a great start to understand what the behavior has been towards the goal they have. So if there's been no action, then is it because of the level of importance? Is it because they're so in their own way that their feet is in the mud and they cannot move, or they think they can't move? So what is it? So it's the curiosity around, so what's stopping the action? Right? What's getting in the way of you acting if you haven't? And if they have taken action, you ask, what is the action? So you can celebrate what they've done, and you can also ask about the learnings that have occurred. What did you learn about yourself when you took that action? And then I'd like to finish with the 5th question. So I want to ask you, what is the importance of your goal to you? Why is it so important for you to achieve that goal? What makes this goal important to you? So one of the things that we want to do as coaches is to hear the alignment between the client's goal and their values. And competency 3 addresses that by us inquiring, being curious about the relationship between the client's goal and the level of importance to them, how they relate to it. So if I asked, so Bern, how come this goal was so important to you? What would you say?
I wrote, so I can scale, accomplish my financial goals, and most importantly, show up powerfully in service to my potential clients.
Awesome. Okay, so as you're hearing the client outline what's important, you are hearing different levels of values. And as you're hearing values, it's what drives Bern to go through the hard times. If those values are not high up in her category of values, then it could be possible that when it gets hard, she will stop or slow down. But we all know, we've all experienced this, where we've had goals where it's been very difficult to go through and we've gone through it. It's because the value attached to it had a very high ranking in our head, in our belief system, and that's why we moved through it. And one of the things I'd like you to leave you with in terms of the group coaching session is this question that I'm going to ask Thelma. So Thelma, if you had to imagine that you have actually got to what it is you came here to get, right? Remember the goal you had, right? Just imagine that you are now operating at the level that you actually wanted. Can you just imagine in every detail that you possibly can that you as a coach is operating at that level? There's no doubt. In fact, there's trust. There is belief, confidence, courage. You know you can do this. So if this was all present for you, and you can imagine you're in it and you're doing it, what does that feel like?
Not to repeat your initial framework, but empowerment feels that I'm being of more service to my clients, being authentic to what I had identified as my own professional need.
Great. So what we just heard is Thelma's relative values to the goal that she holds. So for Thelma to be authentic, to feel that she is operating authentically, and she feels empowered to serve. That I'm guessing is the motor that drives Thelma's engine. So we want the client to hold those values clearly in alignment with those goals, to remember them. You know, why are you doing this in the first place? Right? Because we lose that. We all do. So our clients are the same. If they lose sight of that, the goal itself is in service of something much bigger. The goal is just a milestone. It's a process. There's something much bigger at play. Okay, I want to ask you to share. So I'm gonna just what are you taking away from where we are at so far? You know, we're roughly an hour into tonight's session. What would you say in the chat, or if you feel like you want to share, we can open up and have a conversation. What is it that you are taking away so far from tonight?
Well,
Thelma?
yeah, I think that going back to the clarity, right, which is something that I think a lot of people like struggle to really define to make it concise. So clarity, very important, and they could be several sessions. And that comes with a deep investigation of the motivators, right? Why are we trying to get there?
Exactly. Clarity is power, and becoming very clear about what's driving you. So what are your values? Why are you doing this in the first place? Why is this goal so important? Those are extremely powerful for our clients to be aware of, but also remember as they're going through the journey. When the hard times come, they can remind themselves what's the real reason behind all this. Thank you, Taymour. So I'm looking at the chat. There's the questions encourage insight. This is from Gemma. Without even giving the answers to the group, thinking and decision making is happening for me. Tamzin saying I've had some useful insights about my goal, especially from linking it to my values. It's still unclear how it relates to strength-based coaching. We'll come back to that. Andrea is saying a clear structure. If I'm pronouncing this wrongly, your name, please excuse me. Ike or Eek saying it's powerful questions. Elena, exactly. I saw this happening fast through the type of questions and the curiosity. Debbie getting clarity on the goal right at the beginning and using the 5 questions. Adiola is a difference between coaching and other helping professions. Yeah, great. So thank you for sharing this. Before we get into the Q&A and also look at the strength-based methodology, I'm going to put up a poll just to get a feel for where you are all at from a perspective of what you want to happen next. And I am struggling to find the poll for some reason. Puya, can you see the poll in our menu? Looks like my name has probably disappeared as a... Can you make me a host or a co-host?
1 second.
So as I'm bringing this up, so what we're moving towards next is I want to share the strength-based methodology so you can understand how you can bring that into the context of what we've been talking about in the group coaching. And then we're going to talk about the ICF competencies a little bit, about the structure of some of the things we talked about, but also some of the things that I believe you can be aware of as you're going forward in your coaching. And I'm promised that I will share my own coaching journey if that helps from some of you who are wanting to continue building a sustainable coaching business. So those are the kind of things that we've got left before we finish today. But I'm going to put one poll. It really is only again 2 questions. I've just put it up. The question says, for those of you who are thinking about becoming a coach, so I think about 20% of those of you who are attending were in that category, 20-30%. If you can give us feedback about whether you want to get on a call with me to talk a little bit more about that, your journey now or later, or maybe, and then that will help us come back to you. And if it's a yes or a maybe, if you can give your name and your email so I can come back to you and we can set up a call. And as you're answering this, I'm going to bring up the slides that I want to share. I have for those of you who want to become a coach that haven't experienced coaching yet, there's also a gift that I want to share. And the gift is this, that we have a community at International Coaching Education of coaches who've gone through strength-based coaching education as well as the competencies of ICF. And we have a collaboration with our coaches. And if anyone wants to experience coaching, anything between 3 to 6 sessions, and it will be pro bono. We have a community that is willing to work with you. So if you have said you want to become a coach and you would like to work with a coach for those 3 to 6 sessions pro bono, we'll come back to you and you can kind of inform us of that. If you haven't filled and you want that, please use this email that I'm going to share in the chat, and you can come back to us and we will match you with a coach in the community. So it's info at iCoaching Education. That's in the chat at the moment. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can leave that poll up while I go through the next section. So I'm going to share with you, I'm going to start with the strength-based methodology, and I want you to walk away today, hopefully, understanding why that will add more value to your coaching. So I use this with all my clients, and I have done so since the year 2000. So I've been using this over 2 decades. The strength methodology, in a nutshell, it covers these 5 points. So it's a methodology because there is a mindset behind it and there's science behind it. It's based on positive psychology. And the very first thing is that strength coaching is based on the belief and science that all of us have a set of unique talents that no one else possesses in that unique combination. So we've often used this as a coach to our clients, that you're unique. So the science behind this says that our brain is wired and has been trained in the early years of our lives through the experiences and DNA, combination of nurture and nature, where it has created the way we naturally, meaning autopilot. So we don't have to think. It's not conscious, it's unconscious. And it's working for us all the time. And that combination of talent makes us different. So for example, I may be very high in the way I take action, in the sense that I have to think through before I get into action. Whereas some of you will not think through at all, and you will like to go into action first and learn while you're in action. Some of you are naturally drawn to deep, trusting conversations and relationships. Some of you are drawn to meeting lots of variety of people and getting to know them to the level where you can serve them. These are all parts of a talent system. And if you combined the dominant talents that we possess, we will have a unique way that we would think, feel, and behave in any certain circumstances. Just think about that for a second. If you have a particular circumstance you're in, so let's take Bern's example. She's about to set up her group coaching business, and her circumstances is this initiative. Now, while she's setting this up, her unique combination of talents will be firing up for her naturally. And the ones that she doesn't have will be dormant. So the way that Bern is approaching setting up this business, it will be completely different to the way I would do it. Because the way I think and get to do is different to the way Bern thinks and does. And if you get access to your client's natural way of thinking and behavior, and they get to know that more and more, then it starts to help them make better intentional decisions on the things that matter to them. And where they need to do something and they are lacking those talents that would help them, they can then substitute by partnering or other strategies to move towards their goal more powerfully. So this is, to me, this is a new language. It's about the language that the client speaks. And if I can understand it as a coach, I can serve them better. So that's number one. My client is absolutely unique. So I am going to deal with my client as an absolute unique entity. Number two says, every task that my client is wanting to do, they will be stronger in it if they invested in it. So that's the bit about realizing what they can invest in. But before that, it's the mindset that in order to be stronger, I must invest. And the investment is about developing the talents that I have and focusing on what I have rather than what I don't have. And then building on the knowledge and skill that's going to support me get there. So Thelma said, I want to know how I can set up this group coaching. Well, she can go and invest in the knowledge and skill, specifically the knowledge first, and then add the skill of being a group coach on top of what she's already learned, and then use her natural talents and develop those towards that particular goal. That's a pretty intentional set of actions that moves you powerfully towards that goal. Number 4 is about listening for the signs that strength is present. And those signs can be learned, so you can listen for them as a coach. So as you are aware what the signs are, what your active listening is listening for what the client is saying. And if you pick up those, you know that the client is sitting in their strength. And if they are not demonstrating that, then maybe they want to do something that actually it's somebody else's goal. It's not theirs. And just knowing that is going to be an immensely powerful observation to put in front of them. And then lastly, owning that power. So for the clients to really be committed and own the power that they have by using their talents effectively. So knowing that they have the talents and then utilizing them so that they are effective, because talents are neutral. They can get you into trouble as well as get you into the outcome you want. A clear example of that is if someone loves to get into action to learn, and they do not have enough data, and they get into action and they fall badly. Right? So sometimes it's better to slow. So it's circumstance dependent. And we know as coaches that we are focusing on 3 things: the client's goal, the client's circumstance, and who the client is. And that's all encompassed in these 5 in alignment with ICF's competency framework. And what ICF talks about, some of you already know this, we've concentrated a lot around competency 3 today, establishing and maintaining agreements, building trust, and being present. Some of you have got into insights through the communication we've had, and then some of you will have some actions that you're going to take, like Bern said, right? And Thelma. So some of you will have actions to walk away and work towards the goal you want. So the strength-based methodology sits right on top of this from a perspective of how can the client access their potential through their talents, where they can invest. So the return on investment is clear here. Invest in what you have, which is the talents, your dominant talents. And then how can they stay intentional, watching out for their blind spots? So that strength-based methodology would come into the conversations that we had today, in addition to the conversations with Bern and Thelma. And I may have asked Bern, for example, now that you've discovered that there is this internal conversation going on, right? So if you had to think about somewhere in the past where you have used a way where you could focus on what you already have that can stick with knowing that you're going to develop this business. So something that you've done in the past that made you feel that you know more about belief that I can do this, right? What could you think in the past that you drew on? You could see what you have and what you can do. So I don't know, Bern, what you would have said to that. Do you have an immediate thought?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. What comes up is this whole idea of empowerment that you've been talking about, in relationship to what Thelma and I have brought up. So how have I empowered myself in the past to show up while there's self-doubt, while there's a lack of confidence, and that's to be present. So whenever I just show up and I'm present with the people in the room, whoever's on the other side, and I put the emphasis on just being present, it takes away that disempowerment that I'm feeling. So that's something I've done in the past, is just be present and listen. And my strength is in rapport building. So come back to the things that I feel really strongly in: presence, rapport. And the last thing that I thought of as you were speaking is something fun or something that I might add is to share openly. This is new for me. I'm doing something new. I'm feeling nervous. I have doubt, like most of us, and just sort of lay it out on the table just for a moment, and that way, maybe that'll help sort of strengthen our bond a little bit more, because maybe others are feeling that way. And then I feel like I'm being authentic. Like I'm not trying to show up in a way that's not real. We're all human, having all these human experiences. So that was a fun thing that I wrote down. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So the superpower that I'm hearing through Bern's conversation is her ability to bring about very deep, trusting space very quickly. That's her superpower. And the more she focuses on that she already has, and starts to apply that and develop that in the context of this goal, she will stay present. She will feel positive and confident, and the others will feel that energy and play to it. So thank you, Bern. Thank you, Thelma, for volunteering. I've really enjoyed interacting with you today, and I want to just open up if there are any questions, Puya, that have come into the group, or people have. I'd love to just see if I can address some of those before we wrap up today.
I'm sorry, I got kicked out for a minute, so I'm not sure if you saw the questions I sent you, Taymour.
Did you send it in the chat?
In the chat, yeah.
Okay.
So there was one from Amanda, one from Tasmin.
Okay,
from
great. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. There was a question from, is it Lily that had a question that I asked her that I can come back to her?
That's right.
Lily, are you still with us?
Yes.
So go
Yeah,
ahead.
so in terms of the coaching, I'm new. I just wonder how that help. The recent had a session, I help the client to getting awareness, like he's very procrastinated on actions.
Yeah.
And he come up a realization. He said he's lazy. I mean, I said,
Right.
okay, the laziness, I just feel it very negative. I said, how do you feel about this realization? And he said that he's just going to accept who he is. Yeah, I just feel like I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for raising this question. I really appreciate it because there's a fundamental um, uh, competency around for us coaches when we're listening to our clients. Um, one of the jobs that we have is to listen for the truth. It's a big statement. Listen for the truth. Now, truth from the client's perspective. Now, if a client says, I am lazy, now we all know that that is not the reason why ultimately somebody doesn't move towards the goal that they have. We already know that. We know that if somebody says, "Oh, the reason why I don't think I'm ever going to get to there is because I am lazy." Now, if we think through this, it is probably a word that your client has heard people say to him about him, and he has believed those words. It is not the truth. Because your client, if you ask your client, is there anything that you have achieved? If you wanted to achieve it and you went and achieved it and he said yes, then that it cannot be true that he's lazy because he has got into action with something or other in the past. So one of the things is to hold your client to the potential that they don't even see themselves yet, and for us to remain there. And that is one of the things that the clients look for from us is that we see them with potential, even if they don't see it yet. And then through our learning and experience, we will ask questions and observations so that we can help them come through this perspective that's not working to a perspective that is working. Laziness is not working for that person, right? That is disempowering that person. So we want the person to see that and then find a more empowering way that they can get into action. And that's our job through the questions and the observations that we bring. So I trust that helped, Lily. That is part of your growth, if you like, as a coach, to see what are the strategies and what is different ways, the different tools that you can bring for this specific client if they're willing and open for that change we talked about earlier, right? They've got to be coachable. If the client's not coachable, then I think that's a different conversation altogether.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Amanda has asked, how do I distinguish between mentoring and training? I think this will come as part of your training through becoming a coach, where your active listening will distinguish what we just heard today, where the client is after something that is to do with a change outside of themselves or something that they want to learn, which of course we know that they're quite capable of going learning themselves. They don't need a coach to go out and learn something. So that comes with training and your active listening for it. Tasmin has asked, I've had some useful insights about my goal. I'm glad to hear it, especially from linking it to my values. It's still unclear how this relates to strength-based coaching. I trust that what we talked about just now about strength methodology starts to add or stack these other things that you can bring into your coaching. Sito is saying, what is still unclear for me is what's the difference between strength-based coaching and ICF coaching? So thank you, Sito, for this question. So strength methodology is a new language. It's a new language for us to hear what is making our clients' neurology or way of thinking, and how is that linked to their motivation. And we're learning that through learning through the talents that they have. And that comes from the assessment, which, Sito, I know you've taken the assessment yourself. So it is an extra tool that complements the ICF competencies, and its intention is so that we as coaches have new added strategies and ways of listening to accelerate the impact of our coaching. So if some of you that have not heard of strength or want to hear about strength coaching and add it to your portfolio, just send us an email and come on to a specific program to learn those languages and how you apply it to your coaching and the impact, the additional impact that it can have. I hope that helps, Sito. I know you're already well on the way of actually applying this. So as you apply, you will probably pick up the nuances more and more. Is there something you
Sorry,
want to add?
Taymour. Yeah, it was actually asked by someone else, but my name was actually mentioned there. But thanks for answering again.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. So Sandra is saying, can you please repeat shortly all the 5 questions? Yeah. So question number 1 is, what is the goal? Question number 2, how long have you had this goal? What's the one major obstacle that you can see getting in your way of that goal? What is the action you have taken in the last 24 hours? And then what makes this goal so important to you?
Why the last question not on the third question?
Say that, Lily. Say that
So
again.
the last question, why this goal is important to you? Why it is not question number 3?
Why is it not question number 3?
No, I mean the order, right? The order is matters for the way to ask these 5 questions.
No. This is coaching is not prescriptive. So this is just the way I've designed it, right? So the order is not obviously the first one is important to ask what is the goal, just to get the context. But what comes after that, it's up to you how you ask it. This was my way of designing it.
Taymour, there's a question by Chris. I put that in your chats as well.
Yeah. Chris saying, can we say that gaining? Oh, Chris, do you want to say it yourself?
Oh, sure. Thanks for taking my question. So, I mean, the question is, and I'm always trying to think in terms of the structure of sessions. I've been coaching for 3.5 years, but it's very helpful for me to think Tigro and Tom. And, I always remember that event, we're always going to clarify what the client really wants, right? And help them understand what they really want, because what they initially say in the beginning of the session, what they want, may not be exactly what they really are looking for. So in my mind, we're trying to get clarity also on what they want, and even revisiting what the goal of the session is as they learn. So I guess the things that I mentioned here is gaining more clarity on what that want is, right? Which includes realizing or bringing into play their superpowers to kind of lead, if we need to continue to clarify what they really want, which leads to the target of the session. Does that make any sense?
I think so. So let me see if I can kind of bring a little bit more clarity about where the most powerful places for the superpower that all our clients have. So the superpower is about this uniqueness of the client. The uniqueness of the client is how they get things done. So the goal is what they want done. The superpower or their uniqueness is how they will get that goal done.
Okay.
So if we're listening to what is the goal and they become clear about what the goal is, and we're going through the session and it stays clear, then we are moving towards who they are and how they're going to utilize who they are, which is these superpowers we talked about, in achieving that goal, right?
Gotcha.
Now, you mentioned about as you're in a session, you might get more clarity about what they really want. So that's why ICF's competency 3 says very specifically that we're always listening to see, are we on track to the same outcome, or is the client moving towards something that's more clear as they have developed it, right? And if we hear this subtle change, we always want to check in and ask them, do you want to stick with what we said, or do you want to veer off towards this new goal? And we have to manage that session because the session is timed, right? So one of the challenges for us coaches is if the client halfway through the session decides that the goal is changing, we now have half the time, and we need to set up a new agreement how we are going to use half the time for the client to move forward and get something of value and then move forward beyond that, right? So that's all part of the agreement that we would have to address if it comes up that way. Again, experience, Chris, will kind of accelerate how you address that and how you deal with that when it comes up.
Can I ask one quick other question, and then I'll put myself on mute. So bringing the superpowers in again of how they're going to accomplish their goal. When I look at Tigro and I look at, the next steps, right? The one, way forward, right? And so I would think that you would maybe, if you've brought clarity or found clarity as a coach to what their superpowers are, and we're talking about the how, that could be a good place to bring that in. It's like, it's saying, I'm seeing that this is a real strength of yours.
Yeah.
How would that work with your next steps? And
absolutely.
Does that sound right?
Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. So the conversation I was having with Bern, and I was saying, like, what have you experienced in the past that worked for you? That's success in the past, and that's part of our superpower, bringing it forward.
Yep.
It can also be in the moment. Like, what do you know about yourself that can assist you move forward powerfully? What do you know about yourself that is going to be aligned with this particular goal, right? How would you do what you need to do that you feel energized while you're doing it? These are all questions that are aligning strength with the competency framework of the client getting to the outcome they want.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anything else, Puya, that you can spot that? Oh, you're on mute, Puya.
Were you asking me that question?
No, sorry, I was asking Puya if there's anything else.
Actually, Thelma asked if we can share the resources for learning more about strength, and I'm gonna put the link to our articles. We've got a lot of articles exactly about that. I put that in there, and the recording, by the way, of this session is going to be posted on YouTube, and I put the address of our YouTube channel as well in the chat.
Puya, is it true that our YouTube also has resources that that they can go and listen to around strength or any other thing around coaching?
Yes, so we've put previous events from ICW, in fact, and some of those are exactly about strength development. So maybe I'm going to have to go dig it up, but we have a whole playlist of events around about strength coaching and from the previous ICWs.
So if they go into that YouTube link you've given, presumably they can just look for potential titles, etc.
You can look for playlists, and if you go into the previous ICWs, you'll see that there are some, and the title includes the word strengths.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions outstanding before we wrap up?
I've got a question, please.
Yeah, Farida.
Hi, Taymour. I'm very curious to what your superpower is, because this session went so fluently, and I'm quite in awe of how you did this. So what is it for you?
Thank you. Okay, so I want to first of all thank you. When I refer to superpower, I refer to really a combination of talents that we all possess. My dominant talents are actually next to my name here, my top 5 talent themes are strategic, learner, focus, self-assurance, and arranger. Now, each one of those has a characteristic about it. So strategic is it's basically the way I think. So I am looking at the easiest way we can get to the outcome. So that often helps me in a group environment when I'm hearing we want to get to an outcome and I have different choices. I can choose between those choices very quickly and move the audience forward. Learner helps me listen and connect to the audience. Focus is staying in line with what I'm here to do. Self-assurance is trusting that the process works and I can deliver it. So it's not about I can remove myself and be present. And the arranger is being able to handle a few things at the same time. So those combinations for me work very well when I'm in group environments. So each one of us will have our own combination, and in different circumstances they'll pop up. There's a lot more to this, Farida, than just going through the themes, but I trust that helped a little bit.
Yes, helped a lot. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. So if we're exhausted with the questions that there are, I want to thank everybody for staying on a little bit longer and being interactive and participating. I want to thank Bern, Sarah, and Thelma for volunteering, and those of you who put questions in the chat or interacted in the chat. Thank you, Puya, for helping this session go smoothly. And I look forward to seeing some of you on Sunday and Saturday. I think I'm doing the Saturday Sunday series, and hopefully you'll get some value through the series that are on this week. Take good care and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.